I have decided to discuss my decade-long divorce. Even saying that is drastic because I can't believe it was me that this happened to. And I do remember feeling like, I can't believe this is me that this is happening to. Like it just was so unexpected. It just was such a normal process. And I just thought, like, I remember you have to send a letter through the US Postal. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like to start what they call the event, meaning if you decide, I had a prenup that kicked in after 2 years. And if 2 weeks before 2 years, instead of right at 2 years, I had put this letter through the mail, it would have been a different financial situation. And that's not even important to me. What's funny is that doesn't even stand out, but just letting you know that like that was a millions of dollars in difference if I just had put the letter through the postal service before that kicked in. But the reason I say that is because I remember sending this letter, which made it official that you were, ending a relationship. And I put out a statement that said, like, we'll always be family or something. Because I was like, I had this fantasy of doing, Christmases together and not being best friends or anything, but just like some version of normal, some version of one day it will be normal. Because I've heard of people who have very contentious divorces, but eventually they can coexist. And what's funny is that too goes from garden variety to extreme. There are 50 shades of divorce. So I want to say something that's very important to start this off. And what it is that my daughter has a meaningful and positive relationship with her father and with her grandparents. It's important, a significant relationship. It's important that I say that, a healthy relationship. She has a relationship with her father and his parents. And to me, that is so important. It is the first male relationship she will ever have. And it will set and inform the tone for future male relationships. And I love that she has an amazing relationship with her grandparents because I don't have that on my side. And I want that for her. We should want what's best for our kids. I think I've mentioned this before, but Tiger Woods' ex, Elin Nordegren, said about Tiger being with someone else or being with other people, the more people that love her child. And that's how I feel. I want my child to have love in her life and go to family reunions and holidays that can be busy and annoying and obligations and, different cultures, different experiences. I want that for her. I love that for her. She gets that small town family experience with the family tree and the cousins and the relatives and those things on her father's side, and that's amazing for her. And she gets different things from me. So let's not get it twisted. And also, someone can love their child as a general concept. This is not being specific. Someone can love their child and hate their ex. And someone can hate their ex more than they love their child at certain points. There are many different things that can go on, and many of you have experienced different versions. This conversation, this experience that we're going through together is so someone can find something that works for them in this toolbox. This is a toolbox of experiences and possibilities as a cautionary tale for the future, to heal yourself emotionally from something that happened in the past. This exact situation will not be your situation. You will have things that are horrendous. You will have things that are fine. There are different areas. And a lot of what I'm describing to you is how I've experienced trauma, but also how I've dealt with it. We're going to get through a lot. It's not all going to happen in 1 week. And people are freaking out. Why is it here? Why is it not there? Why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I'm listening. I know your comments. I know your concerns. I'm reading a lot of what you're saying, and I'm seeing a lot of similarities. Many of you are healing trauma through this experience because you are feeling seen, heard, and not alone. Because a lot of it was going on in your head because you talked about it to so many people, and a lot of people don't care about what goes on with other people. They can't even imagine. They don't understand. They couldn't comprehend. You think every day I told someone I was going through hell? There was nothing you couldn't even talk about it. It was such a big volume of information. There'd be no way to describe it. And now you guys know I did not talk about it publicly. I said, this is torture, or I said, this is There was a word, gnarly. I never talked about it. It was insane. I talked in court about it, which is public record. I didn't know where I was in it. I didn't know if it was going to go on for 20 years. It went on for 20% of my life. Sorry, I'm having a drink. So in the last one, which was pretty intense and I was crying, that was what I call the den of torture. Now, a couple of things about that. One is the period that I've almost described spans less than 1 year, I believe. There were 9 more years. So what would follow was so incomprehensible, but what happened in that first year was also such torture. And the types of things that would go on just changed because you have a superintendent with multiple keys. And when that's going on, you'll have different experiences along the way. So what I forgot to bring up in that first year is that I just kind of glossed over the fact that I was in an apartment and I couldn't have anywhere to go. And what would happen was for probably 6 months to a year, I would stay with a friend. But in the first several months, we were staying at hotels. So I would pick my daughter up from the school that I told you guys about and not be able to go home. And we might do the Red Park. Because little kids that age, they're 3 years old. They're not like, you can't like just put them in a hotel room. They'll climb the walls. So you have to go to the park. You have to go do the ice cream. You have to go to the Barnes & Noble. We would go to the book reading story time at Barnes & Noble, or there was Barnes & Noble in Tribeca had just like a playroom where you'd sit. And the kids would go play with all the different books and they had different toys and things like that. I mean, we'd always have some different thing that we went to. And I bring it up because I always remember being in the makeup and in the heels and feeling so uncomfortable and dirty and like just wanting to be in like mom's sweat clothes with a clean face, and it felt gross. And it was just, you still had extensions in your hair. It was gross. I felt bad, but my daughter was none the wiser. We checked into different hotels. Probably like once, it would be once or twice a week. At least once a week I would be in a hotel until I got to stay at my friend's for a semi-permanent amount of time and until I got an apartment. And I was only allowed to take her out of the marital residence on my time with her, which makes perfect sense. And it was a very challenging time. And it was challenging because I also had a staff and an office still inside the apartment. Now, you're going to be like, why didn't you get them all out of there? And I did. I ended up getting an office. I ended up renting out another office. I ended up getting 2 different offices in Soho. But you're trying to do a talk show that's doing 2 shows in one day. You're trying to raise a child. You're trying to have after-school activities. You're trying to run your Skinny Girl business, which is also a big business. You're trying to make a network happy. You're trying to do press. After you would do the talk show, you'd have to go and talk to all the individual networks by video. And then you would have to do promos. And you would be getting a lot of questions and you'd have to read information about the next day. And so it was impossible to try to be a parent, to deal with a divorce, which was a full-time job, to deal with being under siege in an apartment, to manage your staff, and to also like be out apartment and office hunting. It was a lot. It was so much more than a lot. I am a machine. And if I were not raised in a house of eating disorders and abuse and alcoholism and bulimia and chain smoking and moved 13 times and was always the new kid, this is like why I'm successful. My life is survival mode. And so this was just another, but all I felt was like, I finally made it. I made it. Like I did it. I did it. And at the minute that you could exhale and you were like, I'm a person, like I can go to a hotel and I can open up a mini bar, and I bought my own apartment, which like I hadn't even really, I still was asking my business managers if I could buy a retail purse at Christian Louboutin in Dallas. Like I didn't know I really had money. I didn't understand it because I had been like up and down and up and down and up and down with money, and like then broke. And even my childhood was like 6 cars in the driveway, then eating off a card table, like gambling, winning, then losing. Like it was just always like a roller coaster financially. And so this was like you finally had money, but like you didn't even have it in a real business manager or like a real business account because you just had it in the regular bank getting regular rates. And like that was a lot too. I didn't know where to put it, who to talk to. Like I was a person that was a late bloomer. I made money in my late 30s, but I didn't know anything about anything. I don't have parents. I don't have a dad to call and be like, can you like help me with where my money should go? Or like a mom helping me with doctor's appointments or with my daughter or anything. Like I'm alone. So I was dealing with all this alone. I wasn't allowed to speak out about anything. And the game was moving so quickly, and what was going on was not correct. What I experienced during my divorce was torture. I don't stutter. I know what you're saying. Women are being raped and tortured, and it is horrific. And there is a spectrum. My assistants would call me up and say, the apartment smells really bad. There's like piled up garbage and it's very dirty and it smells. There's that smell again. And then they would reference remnants being left in a toilet unflushed. They would call me and say the Wi-Fi is off again. They would call me and say there was blasting television in the apartment and it was on the competing talk show to mine, and that the remote was not in the apartment. Like, there were just newspapers with terrible press about me. So I'm trying to navigate what I'm discussing, and that's why sometimes there's some stuff missing, because I have intentionally left things out, but I'm trying to be honest and tell a true story. And when I found a way to leave, despite being advised by lawyers that it's abandonment, you're abandoning the marital residence, I left anyway, and the judge commended this action. Because while you have to listen, you also have to be smart. You're a parent. Like, bad things can happen. And you may not know what you're dealing with. And you just don't know what's been bubbling from years. You don't know if there's a power struggle. You don't know if there's a financial struggle. You don't know if there's an emotional issue. You don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know. You don't know. This is going to be crazy. You know how, like, you're wondering who everybody is. You're in a traffic jam on the highway, and you're wondering who everybody is. And, like, if everybody didn't leave during traffic times, maybe it'd be easier for certain people who really needed to get somewhere or to get to work, or like these thoughts go on in your mind. If you call your lawyer and you have your lawyer clog up the legal system with the judge with every bit of minutia, you're hurting yourself and every other person doing it, because you're contributing to the backlog and the bottleneck. So if everybody only addressed the court when they needed to for a serious emergency, someone's being abused, it's actually harming your child emotionally or physically, or something real, everybody's experience would be much shorter. It would cost you less money. You would get to court sooner. Everything would change. So I'm just saying, I hope I can make a change in the overall system on our side. I can't affect the legal system on the other side yet. But on our side, if everybody doesn't cry wolf every time, they will get in front of that judge faster. So just think about that. You're contributing to the whole backlog if you think every little thing is something, because it's not. I had some serious stuff that is damaging and harmful, and I stayed the course. I waited my turn. I colored within the lines. I'm trying to be organized, and I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to go back to something extremely traumatic and work through it. I couldn't believe the response from you. I can't believe how many people it affects. But then again, how could I not? It's 60% of people end up in divorce. It takes 5 minutes to get married, but it could take 10 years to get divorced. So just, like, think about, like, please think about that. I'm not anti-marriage. I love marriage. I love the commitment. I love the partnership. I applaud your beautiful marriages. I'm saying, like, think, process, therapy, money, religion, in-laws, think. It's real, the shit that goes down. So the next big point that I thought was going to make things easier was I begged for phone calls, like, because that would mean that then, as I told you before, I was having a hard time actually spending time with my child, and phone calls became a nightmare. Let's just say that phone calls didn't actually happen. The phone was ringing, and the record of the phone call or repeated phone calls were happening, but the actual phone call was not happening. The people that are talking to one another were not talking to one another. There's a set time that every day you're going to get to speak to your child, and you walk on eggshells and you're waiting around and you're panic stricken if you're in the bathroom. You have the phone like up your own ass because you can't miss. Or what if you just missed a call or you were on the phone? I was a nervous wreck every day. And 8.5 out of 10 times, there would be no actual correspondence. It would be just a ringing or a one ring and a hang up. It was, and then eventually I tried to game the system again and try to figure out, okay, let's make it FaceTime. What's scary is if somebody wants to torture you, they can. I would panic. I went to Australia, and the panic of going to Australia and being on a time zone and then like missing the call came for one ring, but then it's got like, it was the phone calls and what became the FaceTimes were a misery. I remember being in those years, being in the apartment and doing Thanksgiving alone and trying to get fake Thanksgiving with my daughter. I believe it was the Tuesday before, but there was some loophole in the schedule. My assistant missed it, and I was laying down in the iPic with my daughter, and my assistant called me and says, I made a big mistake. This isn't your time. You have to get up and leave the movie now. I had to leave the iPic theater with my daughter, and immediately it was conveyed to me that it was an emergency and it had to be immediate. I had bought all this Thanksgiving food for all these people to come over to my apartment in New York City to do fake Thanksgiving with Bryn. I had the turkey, I had all the food, etc. I invited people over to try to make it seem like something. And I had to walk out of a movie theater and I cried like a blubbering, hysterical baby. I drove straight out to the Hamptons on the next day, which I think was Wednesday, and I jumped into the ocean. It was when I started my relationship with Dennis. Like someone was paying attention to me and someone made me all these promises. And I just wanted any kind of hit. I wanted someone to make me feel better. I was so miserable. I had no access and I just felt like such a loser and such a failure and such a junior parent. And I didn't have like the family and I didn't have the Thanksgiving, and she was ripped out of me like in the movie theater. Like I had to just like pull out. I was in a constant state of hysteria. I was constantly on eggshell. I was always like this. If you go back and watch me on the show maybe, or on the, I don't know, you'll find that I was a fucking wreck. I was a wreck. I was so unhappy. I probably was less nice. I was less patient. I was a wreck. Everything was the phone call, like I just was. It was normal. Things weren't normal. I thought it was wrong. If I ever went to dinner for like one time, I remember the one time I went to dinner. I went to dinner one time. Even with the show, I negotiated an entire contract coming back to the Housewives. It said I would only work when I didn't have my daughter. I had specific hours. I would show up at a trip 2 days late and leave 2 days early. Like I had different rules and I knew other people were resenting me for it. But and I would come in and I would set the house on fire while I was shooting. And no disrespect to the production company because they were like saying like, we need you to get down here. And I was like, I can't. And then I would have more pressure when I was shooting because the pressure was Miami. That was the Miami trip. That was the Miami trip with Luann and with Tom, and like it's about Tom. And then there was the other one of Life is Not a Cabaret, because I was just such a fucking mess that every time I would show up somewhere, I had to like light it on fire and pick up every crumb because I was making up for all the missed assignments. And the only dinner I ever did, I remember I went to the restaurant Cherry with Sonia and Tinsley and everything, and I brought Bryn with me, and I like put her with headphones at an adjacent booth. Like I never would do lunch. I didn't do anything. I had no plan. It's what really like sealed me. That with the pandemic made me this like insular pajama person. I always was, but it was like I have this visceral reaction to like ever being away from my daughter for 1 second. It's not even healthy and it's not normal. There happened to be a bomb scare in my building. No, on my street in Soho, my assistant said, there's been a bomb scare, but don't worry, I'm with her. Or as a babysitter from like babysitters.com or something. And she was like, but don't worry, I'm with her. We're at the Italian feast and whatever. But it was like, because what kind of emails am I going to get? And what's going to be said to me? And like, I was believing, like, I believed in with every fiber of my being that leaving my daughter for 1 second was bad. Like doing anything. That's why I'm not a hero for not having a baby nanny. I'm not a hero for that. Doing a talk show and having this career and doing this divorce and being on the Housewives. Think about that. Without a baby nanny, it's insanity. I didn't want to miss a fucking second. I didn't want to miss a bath, and I didn't want to. And I love that I didn't have it. I still, I don't have it now. I have a community, and people will help out. But like, I'm never away from my daughter. It's why we're so close. So I don't regret it. I just regret like probably the reason. I don't know. Would I have had one? I'm not sure. There was a training that was embedded in me. Bad mother, like just bad for any thought I had, person I talked to, thing I did, anything that was in my cabinet, anything we ate, anything that went on. I just was like, I was just trained. And you guys know, like, we just watched Gypsy Rose. She lived for her mother, and like her mom was medically abusing her, but like her mind was playing tricks on her too. She probably thought it was love. Like she probably thought it was right. I did not experience that dynamic, but I'm saying, why would it not make sense that after 10 years, why would I think I was a good person or a good parent? Or because if you hear the same thing and you're shuddering and you're freaking out because the legal system is telling you all these things too. You can't do that. And you have to be responsive, and you have to stay in the apartment, and you have to do this, and you can't just go like know what's right and wrong and do something about it. It's not how the legal system works. So while I don't want to criticize the legal system and the poor judge who has all the documents and the lawyers telling you what the fuck you're supposed to do, I will tell you with great certainty, you are told all these rules, and you follow them because you're being a rule follower. The court isn't in your house. They don't see what's going on. They don't know if a phone call really happened or if it's a phone, record. They don't know this is the double-edged sword. This is the circular reference. This is the devil's advocate. This is the problem. You can't call the judge every time. They have people being physically dragged and burned, and you could be on a slow drip of torture where it's just, it wasn't even a slow drip. You could get 50 abusive emails a day and texts telling you how disgusting you are and what a pig and you're a bad person, and everybody's going to find out, and the world knows that I'm disgusting, and the bad press, and it's out there, and you're seeing press of it. Like, you're going to start to believe it because you're also emotionally drained and you're stripped and you feel like a piece of shit, which is what women are designed to be told. That's what goes on. Did he fucking beat the shit out of a girl in a hallway? What did we not see? We now, 8 years later, see it, and we all are rallying around her. And people call the police with busted faces and don't even get results. People don't feel like it's even worth it to call the police. So what are you going to do? You're going to call the judge every time? Like, we're swimming in a river of shit alone. You're alone. You're dealing with a decade of something that's going on that is inside your own fucking body and head. And you tell individuals along the way some things no one understands and no one cares because it's their own life. Only people around. The only people that know what I went through with great certainty on a fucking regular basis are those assistants. And they were sadly they were like, I was alone without them. Who would see this is happening? Who would one day validate this? Who would ever be on a court? And I'm great. I don't know. I don't know where to go, what to do, who to tell, who to be. I don't have family. No one was like really seeing it. People just saw pieces of it. My friend saw it. My friend saw what happened in Australia with the phone calls. My other friend, but it's like a piecemeal puzzle. And you just like women want to be heard and seen and believed. And you're being told by men in a system along the way, because you're just relaying a story. I had to do it with The Notebooks. I bring up with you guys all. This is The Notebook. Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams were not in this movie. The Notebooks, tabs, emails, proof, like that's what it was, but it was long. And it may be long, and you may be in the middle of the fucking marathon. So all I can do is try to help you mentally and try to help you know what to do to navigate it. Because I did not do everything perfectly right. You gotta know. You don't know what you're walking into, and you better fucking brace yourself. And you don't know what you're walking into when you get married. And a lot of you are commenting how many people, hey, Dan, how's your golf game? Hey, Jane. Hey, Mom, let's do the play date together. I brought the cookies. I sign up for every field. Like, the people that are super nice and charming is a red flag. Fucking trust and believe. You know what you're getting with me. I might be a bitch some days. But it's all out live and direct. I'm not perfect. Do not marry someone that you would not want to be divorced from. Like, listen to me very clearly. Do not get married to someone that you cannot imagine being divorced from. Because what is it? The little tonal, the little snap someone gives you, they don't like what you're wearing. They don't appreciate it. They're slightly controlling. They're judgmental. They want to exert power in different ways. There's a little thing. You saw the way they talked to their mom. You saw the way the dad talked to the mom. What are you seeing? It's not the big shit. It's the little shit. The cracks become craters. So whoever you're in a relationship, if you are contemplating marrying them, think about what they're like in every disagreement, in every big argument, in every business association. Are they fully honest? Are they ethical? What is their father like to their mother? What are they like? What are they really like? Do they battle with you in a strange way at certain periods? Do they push in and dig in on things that don't fucking matter but really get real lit about them? This is who you are marrying. So I eventually got myself out of the apartment. Every single person I went out with, every time I went out with on a date, it was a passageway to torment for myself and, yes, for my child. And along the way, the football keeps moving. You keep thinking some other thing is going to happen. You go to a custody trial. You feel that there's going to be some change. You're told once the custody is settled, everything will calm down. Oftentimes, a deal looks the best when it's about to be signed. Listen to me now. You know that thing up, down, left, right, and plan for the worst of it. A custody agreement is not intended to be, but can be utilized to be punitive. It's supposed to be in the best interest of the child, and it's supposed to be a legal document that creates structure and protects a child. It is not supposed to be used as a weapon against the other person, but it often is. Someone may know that you have an appearance or a work obligation or a conference 4 years from Thursday, and you ask them now, and they'll say, sorry, can't accommodate that request. Or you can't see your child for 1 second more than is legally obligated, and something in life comes up, a death comes up, a work situation that's so lucrative, an amazing experience that you on one side could have the opportunity to take your child to, could be Snoopy, could be Winnie the Pooh, could be something that your child would want to go to, but because the letter of the law is so squeezed and you're terrified, for whatever reason, you believe that there will be sanctions if you're not to the letter of the law. So you better know that you are signing your life away with that custody agreement, and you better fucking know exactly what every word means or have some protective language in it that protects you. It's a very serious thing. So you sign that and you think you're free because you've signed it. Now you've taken away some swelling. You've gotten rid of the marital residence. You are no longer in the den of torture. Now you have a situation where you have a schedule, and you may be assigned a parenting coordinator, which is effectively a therapist. In the best interest of the child, they don't care about your desires, wants, or what you want. And for some people, I find it to be a relief. I find, yay, there's someone around, like there's someone else around. And parenting coordinators, in very rare cases, will be used as just a go-between so someone can try to incriminate and bash the other party. And that's not the goal of the parenting coordinator. Literally, the title is parenting coordinate. They're supposed to facilitate what's best for the child. That apartment with the padlocks and was my version of hell. Like, really my version of hell. I hope the people that bought it saged it.